Hello Eagles Nation, Vincent Focht here, and welcome to the third off-season Eagles Chat of the season. I tell you what, a lot of news has came out these past couple of days about the Birds. We have a lot on our hands, and we have a lot to talk about on today's Eagles Chat. But before we get into today's Eagles Chat, make sure you like and subscribe to the Eagles Chat YouTube channel. And if you want to see daily updates on your Birds, make sure to check us out on Instagram at ChatEagles. Where you also can see updates on when we'll be posting new Eagles chats as well. And you can also find our Instagram in the description of this video. But let's get into this Eagles chat's breaking news. And as of a few hours ago, Eagles longtime defensive tackle Fletcher Cox has officially announced his retirement from the NFL. And I tell you what, it's been one heck of a week to be an Eagles fan. Not even a week ago, Eagles longtime center Jason Kelce retired. Now obviously being followed by Fletcher Cox. And I even said on last week's Eagles chat, I would not be surprised if Fletcher Cox was to follow Jason Kelce out into retirement. And the reason is you kind of have to put yourself in their position. Now, as long as both of them have been with the Birds, they both have been with the Birds for over a decade, they would both be looking if there is a clear path possibly for the Eagles to get back to a Super Bowl. And as of right now, I don't necessarily see a clear path, especially now seeing all the brand new coaches that have been hired by the Birds in these past couple of months, being the new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and even guys like the new defensive line coach, which is right up Fletcher Cox's alley. You have a bunch of brand new coaches, plus the Eagles' defense situation is not looking too great. They've released both Avonte Maddox, they've released Byard, and Byard, speaking of that, was just picked up not too long ago by the Chicago Bears. So right now, the Eagles' defense is not looking too good, and especially even seeing Joshua Sweat and Haason Reddick, both those guys may not even be back for next season. So right now, the Eagles are looking very iffy going into next season. Obviously, this NFL draft coming up in April is going to be where a lot of people's eyes are looking. A lot of people's eyes are going to be on Howie Roseman to see what he could possibly do in this NFL draft to hopefully help the defense. Because right now, the defense is in a very, very struggling position right now. And if they want to get anywhere next year, they really obviously need to focus not just on the secondary, but the whole defense. As of right now, they need to focus on getting possibly Joshua Sweat and Haason Reddick back, which is looking a little iffy right now. But speaking of Fletcher Cox, let's go and look at some of his accomplishments as an Eagle. And we're first going to start off with the obvious one. 12 seasons as an Eagle. His second one was a Super Bowl 52 champion. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler, most by an Eagles defensive tackle. He was a 4-time All-Pro. He was on the NFL 2010 All-Decades team. And he had 188 career regular season games, most by a defensive tackle in Eagles franchise history. So if this screen doesn't say he is a stud, I don't know what does. Fletcher Cox has played at 100% pretty much every game he has played throughout his 12 seasons as an Eagle. And even last year, on his final season, I did not notice any decline in Fletcher Cox's play. I mean, honestly, played great, and I'm really going to miss him making the opposing team's quarterback shiver in his cleats. And, I mean, especially when he gets that sack doing the army crawl and the little flick at the end of it. I'm going to miss that. He was one hell of a player, and, he was a great player to watch for me growing up. And I'm going to miss him, but I wish him the best of luck in retirement. He was definitely a very, very big piece of that defensive line. But speaking of that defensive line, we have a notable name that is going to be returning for one final season with the Birds, and that is Brandon Graham. In other words, BG is going to be returning for one final season. He kind of said it will be kind of like a farewell tour. It'll be a farewell season, so it is good to see Brandon Graham come back, especially seeing like guys like Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox go. I'm so glad to see Brandon Graham, come back. A lot of my childhood players are, going away. I lost a good amount of them in seasons past, but now, notable names like Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelce, you got Lane Johnson still, Brandon Graham, but good thing to see Brandon Graham coming back. I'll be glad to hopefully see them get a pretty good playoff push next year, but then again, we'll see what they can put together to hopefully help buff this defense back up to the way it was a couple years ago. But now, for our last big news of today's Eagles chat, the Eagles have released Avonte Maddox. Now, that happened a couple days ago. Now, just because they released him, that does not mean they can get him back. Now, the only thing is, they would have to agree to terms, and obviously they didn't, which is why they released him. But if they did, there's a chance they could possibly get him back. But then again, people were saying that about Byard, and obviously that is not going to happen now, seeing that he was picked up by the Chicago Bears not too long ago. So we'll see what happens here. Avonte Maddox right now, it's kind of, again, it's a 50-50, especially seeing how both of his past 2 seasons went with his injuries. That's been the biggest issue, and not just the past 2 seasons, excuse me. It's been more than 2 seasons that Avonte Maddox has had these injury issues with the Birds. So right now, will they get him back? I don't know right now, and especially, like I said, looking at his injury past, that's something. Do I think he'll come back? Not necessarily. I'm kind of leaning against him possibly coming back, but who knows? Then again, they could get a deal done and he could return. We've seen that happen before, so there's a chance it could possibly happen again, but we will see in these upcoming months. But that's all I really got to say for this third offseason Eagles chat of the season. And again, whenever these Eagles chats come out, will be whenever any big-time news happens, and especially, like I said in last week's Eagles chat, with this big NFL draft coming up, a lot of eyes are going to be on Harry Roseman to hopefully make the right move. We'll see what he can do, and April's right around the corner. It will be here before you know it. So that's all I really got to say for this third off-season Eagles chat of the season, and like I always say, go Birds!